countries of the entire globe at the moment. We're exploring the rabbinic structure, respectively, over here. Now, we're on part two. We're going to speak about Sudan, the country Sudan, the ties it has with Israel, the Jewish community history in of itself. Now, in the first part, we spoke about the history in general. There's not that much. I've got to be upfront to say that we've got to say within regards to the country itself. But let's explore the rabbinate a bit here in this part two. Who are the rabbis over there? The main rabbi will be Rabbi Shlomo Malka, also known as Rabbi Solomon Malka. He was a chief rabbi of Sudan, I think, between 1906 until he passed away in the year 1946. So he's let's just say, very well known. And his son, I think Eli Malka, would write extensively about this community. And I believe Rabbi Solomon Malka was actually the first official rabbi to lead the Jewish community over there, which was, let's just say, in of itself, it was centered in Khartoum and in Durman. And I think his son Eli compiled a book and other records documenting the community's history. So we spoke about in the first half, respectively, over here about it. Just there was other key rabbis also. There was we're going to speak a bit about Rabbi Masoud El-Baz, also who would succeed Rav Malka, I believe, in the year 1956, and was the last rabbi to serve the community until, let's just say, the community itself declined, which it did, you could argue, at a rapid rate in of itself. Now, we did speak about, let's just say, the community outright in the previous video over here. There's various articles documented within regards to Rabbi. Let's speak a bit about Rabbi Solomon at the moment. Anyone tuning in, welcome to our community. This is about the 30th country we are exploring at the moment here in the series. The goal is to, hopefully, we're going to explore all the countries which have the Jewish community and explore the rabbinate in regards to the current Jewish population and happenings inside these Jewish communities, respectively. So very, very interesting. We'll speak a bit about Rabbi Shlomo over here. But there was also a synagogue, I believe, in its day in Sudan, which is quite interesting. So many people would say the word Sudan, the country Sudan. Many people would not actually associate that maybe events actually took place inside that place in of itself, but that's very, very interesting. So Rabbi Shlomo Malka, what makes him so famous? Obviously, he was the chief rabbi of Sudan. He was born in the year 1878. He passed away in 1849 on the 4th of April. He was also a posek. He was a rabbi that would render different Jewish laws. He was a dayan, a judge. He was a parshan mikra, and he was a rabbi of the Jewish community, of a very small community in Sudan. So he was actually born himself, I believe, in Asfola, I think in Tefifalat in Morocco, place we've spoken before, actually on a very gorgeous day itself, on the 15th of Av, back in the year 1878 over there. And he would learn in yeshiva, I think, in the place where he was born. I think come out the year 1896, about 18 years of age, 19 years of age. He would get married to his wife, Rabbanit Chana, from the Asulin family, also another famous Moroccan family. She, I think, lived between the years 1888 to 1952, respectively, about 70 years, if I'm not mistaken. Anyone joining in live, please subscribe to the channel. We're exploring the Jewish community history of Sudan over here, a special edition, one of the only few videos you'll find in English on there. So please join the channel. Now, he would actually very much grow up, I think, in the Tinkir area in Sudan, respectively. Now, come on, it was the year 1892. He was quite young. He was in his mid-teens or early teens. He would actually go up to Eretz Israel, I think, along with other people, and he would actually go to learn in yeshiva in Tiberias, which would be a massive, colossal move, and he would also learn in Tzfat, and also will be ordained in the rabbinate. You can see all these life experiences will very much help him when he'll eventually end up in Sudan, respectively. He will work as a judge over there in the Beit Din of the Great Rabbinic Court in Tiberias, also respectively. Now, it's interesting. I think in 1906, I think through the instruction, through the approval of Rabbi Eliyahu Bachor Hazan. Rabbi Hazan was, I believe, a head of Jewish court in Jerusalem. He was a Chambashi. He was a chief rabbi of Libya, of Tripoli, respectively. Very, very well-decorated rabbi. I think he would actually go on to become a rabbi also in Alexandria, in Egypt, also, and the author of various great books. He would actually they would go together to Sudan, to the Amodoran neighborhood. It's very interesting. So two great rabbis will make their presence over there. Rabbi Eliyahu Bachor Hazan, who will go on to chief rabbi, and also over here, Rav Malka also. So two great rabbis together will go. And, you know, everywhere greatness, wisdom needs to come. And very much in Sudan they will come. And he would be appointed as a rabbi of the Jewish congregation over there in Sudan. I think, obviously, I think it was a small Sephardic community over there, and there was several hundred families, as we said about in the previous video, which we recorded just not too long ago. של משפחות אחדות לסודאן, החל מסוף, I think at the start of the 19th century, it really began the community. Once you got to Sudan, I think over there, at that point in time, you would be instructing with regards to the Jewish community over there, and the really the various different activities will be going. He'll be a mohel over there, a rabbi that will perform circumcision, brit milah, a shochet, a rabbinic, a kosher slaughter, and also chazan inside the synagogue, a shliach tzibur, able to sing and follow the services. Ach asa et parnasato, maske mascha v'aya ha'ba'alim al tachana liyatzeh shemen umazon. So he was also working in the trade business with the oils and so on and so forth, and was doing various different important activities over there. Now, by speaking about this great rabbi, we're actually learning more about getting a feel of what actually happened during the earlier 20th century part of Sudan itself. So over the years, I think he would have a solidified position as a leader of the Jewish community. I think there'll be close to 1,000 people at that point in time. And he was a well-known figure in that specific area of Khartoum, and was respected also by Christians and Muslims, respectively, over there. So that's very important. He would teach also non-Jewish students, and he was a guest of honor at many official events in this area of Khartoum, and various different. When he eventually passed away, I think Christian and Muslim dignitaries will actually will attend his funeral. Like, you make various different visits to various different Jewish communities. We spoke about how he was close to Rabbi Bechor Hazan, Eliyahu Bechor Hazan, who would go on to become the chief rabbi of Egypt. I believe Rav Malka would actually visit Egypt at one stage in time, or he would go there on various different travelings, I think. And it says over here, Rav Malka katav bikviyut liiton hayudim mitzri al shamam, who will also, I think, contribute to this newspaper, if I'm not mistaken. He would visit Alexandria, I think, with his family over there. And he would also, once again, while he was in his role as capacity role in Sudan, he would visit Eretz Israel also and meet various great rabbis at that point in time, and speak about the Torah, about his congregation also in Sudan, respectively, which is very, very important to also point out. We said about that he would contribute to this newspaper called Al Shamas so seemingly Egypt and the Sudan had a strong relationship. I think it will actually come out in Cairo, if I'm not mistaken, this newspaper. I think it was Tzioni Saad Malki, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, very, very interesting. So, yes, that's something. I think there was a Jewish journalist named Saad Malki, if I'm not mistaken. He was an educator. He was a journalist, if I'm not mistaken, and a Zionist also from Egypt. So he had a close relationship, I believe, with him also. Very, very interesting enough. So he was obviously close, I think, with had strong ties also with Sudan, if I'm not mistaken. He was would do a lot of work cooperating with Zionism, and worked in Jewish Arab, let's just say, unity in of itself, and defended the rights of Jews in Egypt. So very much he established, I think, this Arabic language, Jewish weekly of the Shams, which very much Rav Malka had a connection to, and I think he passed away himself 1988, so more recent, you could say, about 37 years ago. So their lives were very much overlap at that point in time. Okay, so he would contribute a lot to this newspaper. I think he would be dealing with the Parshat Shavua, the weekly Torah portion over there of the Jewish community, and much of it was actually pointed out. He would give teachings in Musar. He would be a proofreader, a historian, if I'm not mistaken, and talk about Shir Hashirim, respectively. Also, that's something else we can point out within regards to him, and did much businesses at that stage in time. Remember, it was the time period of the formation of the state of Israel, just before he passed away, if I'm not mistaken, and would incorporate various songs within regards to establishment of Eretz Israel, and really have good prayer gatherings also to for Am Yisrael also in Sudan, respectively. What's interesting is, I think towards the end of his life, if I'm not mistaken, he was I think he published something, the Al-Makhtar Pi Tafsir Al-Torah, if I'm not mistaken, that would be published, I think, just in Cairo in the year 1949, if I'm not mistaken, and various different obvious teachings would come out. I think eventually in America in 1977, that would have been way after he passed away. Now, he passed away in Khartoum in April 1949, and I think he had 4 sons and 6 daughters, if I'm not mistaken. And they would name a Beit Knesset in Khartoum after him, the Ohel Shlomo. So key synagogue was in Sudan called Ohel Moshe, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I think very much so that would be formed at a later stage. So I think in 1956 the community was more dispersed. Many people moved to Israel, so on and so forth. I think he was eventually buried in Jerusalem at a later period, if I'm not mistaken. That's something that we have to point out. I think it was, yeah, I think it was, he would be buried in Har Menuchot, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it was straight, yeah, it might have been some years afterwards, maybe in the 70s, but I'll have to double check on that. As we mentioned before, it will be Rabbi Masoud Elbaz will take his place afterwards as Rabbi of the community. And the books that he wrote, I think 1977, which was published in America, was a Frontiers of Jewish Faith, reproduced from the original Arabic, obviously, and David Esmark from Generation to Generation, A Legacy of Faith and Tolerance. That was printed in New York, I believe, in the year 1999. So that's very interesting also to point out. Now, there's a lot actually featured within regards to him. We're going to speak about him in a few minutes' time also, because I think it's important to speak about the great rabbis. We spoke about Rabbi Masoud Elbaz, also, who was another great rabbi of his time. It's actually interesting. The Ohel Shlomo Synagogue, actually the World Jewish Congress will actually write some information within regards to this also, which is very interesting. It's actually titled The Legacy of the Jewish Community of Sudan, talking about how the article itself will actually start off stating over here that there's no archaeological traces or historical reference with regards to Jewish communities in Sudan prior to the 19th century. However, after a few Jews from Egypt and Turkey would settle in the area of Umdurman, I think the Meshash family from Yemen, for example, would go on to establish an office in Port Said in the late 19th century, with the ousting of the Mahdi in 1898 and the advent of the British Egyptian administration in Sudan. I think more Jewish people would settle in Omdurman, in Khartoum, and in Port Said. Then come 1908, there would be as many as 20 families, obviously led by Rabbi Salomon Malka at that point in time. And the community deferred, obviously, to Egypt rabbinate, as we mentioned about before. And these initial families were later joined by other Jews from Arab world, would seek opportunities. I think some Ashkenazi Jews would also come in the 1930s to Sudan, respectively. And most of the community in Sudan itself were engaged in trade, especially in the 1900s, early 1900s. And they would have a higher standard of living compared to the rest of the demographic public. And the vast majority of the Jewish community there was Sephardi, and obviously Egyptian, Sudanese, Arabic, English speaking. 1926, Ohel Shlomo Synagogue was built in Victorian Street in Khartoum, and obviously named after the chief rabbi. Remember, he was living at that point in time. In the 1940s, the Jewish community acquired the land next, I think, next to the synagogue. They built a hall that acted as a social hub for the community. They hosted youth activities, celebrations, conferences. They would have a kosher cafeteria even over there. And the community maintained 2 cemeteries, I believe. And the community was never able to establish a Jewish school. I think there wasn't enough. The majority of the Jewish children attend bilingual Arabic-English missionaries and receive religious education through the synagogue. And the community represented, let's say, a very tightly knit group, according to the WJC website, World Jewish Congress website over there, maintaining the ties with Jewish communities in the Arab world, and also supported newly established Israeli state. Let's speak about just using WJC with regards to how the community really dissolved at that point in time. It peaked in the mid-1950s. But however, following Sudan gaining independence and Israel's invasions of Sinai in 1956, both of which caused instability at that point in time in the country. I'm just going to take a short 1-minute break. Everyone, welcome to our channel over here. We're speaking about the history of the Jewish community of Sudan, respectively, over here. So welcome everyone to our channel over here for this fantastic day. Just doing a bit of babysitting while recording this video. So very, very important. So over here. So I'm just going to take a half-a-minute break, friends, over here. Just a half-a-minute break. Hi, Shalom, everyone. Thanks for waiting in. Just a short break that was at this stage in time. We are speaking about the history of the Jewish community of Sudan. Also, very, very rare video over here. So welcome everyone to the channel, and Shabbat Shalom in advance, because we're recording this just before Shabbat. At the moment, we're talking about the Sudan Jewish community. Actually happens to be a part number 2 over here. So the relationship with Sudan would actually take a hit in 1956 after Israel invaded Egypt, the Sinai at that point in time, and they would begin to dissipate. I think many Jews settled in Israel eventually. Others would go on to settle in Europe and North America. Obviously, the small size of the Sudani community, their history obviously is largely unknown because of it. Let's just say small pockets of Jewish life across Israel and diaspora still celebrate their Jewish Sudani heritage and work to preserve it for future generations. That's what we are trying to do over here on this video, very much so at the moment. So that's very interesting. So much more can be said. You can see the relationship they had actually with Egypt was very, very strong at that stage in time. So so on and so forth, which is very, very important to talk about. There's actually a very good article over here. The BBC, of all places, will actually speak about would also speak about about the Sudan Jewish communities, and they actually give a very, very well detailed article in of itself. Now they talk about after the period where after Rav Malka died in 1949, but it would take 7 years to find a suitable replacement, and in come Rabbi Masoud Elbaz, who would arrive in Egypt in 1956. Everyone that's welcome to the video at the moment, please subscribe to the channel. We're exploring the history of the Egyptian Jewish community over here. So Rabbi Masoud Elbaz will come in the year 1956, if I'm not mistaken. And I think in 1965, they would, just before they leave Sudan, they actually the BBC would actually show a picture of the family, if I'm not mistaken, of the Elbaz family. So I think his wife's name was Rabbanit Rebecca, and they had 5 children, if I'm not mistaken. Also, which is interesting to point out over here. I think they would have, I'm not so sure how many boys and how many girls it was, but they would have 5 children. And he was more considered, let's just say, in of itself, I think, more on the modern, let's just say, spectrum in of itself, let's just state. And he was very likable. He was a people's person. His oldest daughter is Rachel, and very, very interesting enough. And the community was very, very traditional. But it wasn't, I think at that point in time, from an observance point of view, it wasn't very, very observant also. And they would celebrate the Chagim, Kashrut, but it was more an incorporated lifestyle also, as they say. It's actually interesting, if we just go back a bit, just using the just a very good detailed article over here from the BBC website. The community built its synagogue, backtrack, in 1926. As I said before, it was located on one of the central boulevards in the city. And this synagogue could have up to 500 people, which is, and just showed the economic and the social stability. Let's just say the weddings in Sudan, the Jewish weddings, symbolize the foundation of a new generation where everyone was able to celebrate in the synagogue, and the whole community used to come in together over there. Whenever there was an event, it was a big, big event in of itself. I think there was someone named Gabi Taman, who lives in Switzerland, would actually comment within regards to this. And I think there was a famous wedding of Gabi to Elini in the synagogue, which there's actually a famous picture where Rabbi Elbaz, Masoud Elbaz, would give over a blessing over there also. The synagogue was not just a spiritual home, it was social life would revolve around it. There was a Jewish recreation club also inside the synagogue. There was middle, upper class society in Sudan was comprised of very interlinked, various different groups. Jewish community over there, there were thriving Greek, Syrian, Italian, Egyptian, Armenian, British, and Indian communities in Khartoum, respectively, over there. And let's just say, itself was the people would play cards, chat, socialize, meet. I think reported over each December, this is probably around Hanukkah time, various clubs would take turn to host lavish events. Let's just say into the whole, there'll be fundraisers at that point in times. Colleagues and friends, very, very interesting enough. It's actually an impressive article here. The BBC have actually captured it. It's very difficult thing. There was bar mitzvah time, people, where it was a big thing. There's fried meat dumplings. That was a popular food, the kibbeh, respectively, over there. That was one of the popular dishes over there. Kwaisat, a fried meatball encasing boiled egg, is another, I think, great dish, let's just say. Turkey roasting is another great dish in itself. And as we said before, the vast majority of Jews in Sudan were very prosperous. And they also had good relationship with the Sudanese people in general. And they would attend, I think, private schools, which was under Sudan. And I think there was a college over there where they would attend, the Jewish boys, called the Comboni College, which was a private Catholic school in Khartoum, apparently ran by Italian priests. But obviously, as we said before, they would have a stronger community in of itself. It was a competitive school. I think a famous Jewish Sudanese person living there was someone named Jack Taman, who, I'm not mistaken, was a key figure, and the Taman family was a key figure, I think, in the Sudani community, if I'm not mistaken. So that's very, very interesting. And I think other popular family names was Kinazi also over there in those points in time. So it was very, very, let's just say. But obviously, as we said before, the growing hostility will come at the time period when, following the Sudanese independence and the Suez crisis, which later happened in that year, Egypt was invaded by Britain, France, and Israel, and the mood of Sudan began to shift. There was, let's just say, support for pan-Arabism of Egypt's President Gamal Abdel Nasser would grow at that point in time, and anti-Israel rhetoric will come about, and the atmosphere will change in a very bad way. 1956, it was reported over. Very, very interesting. So more would actually happen at that point in time, and the community started dissipating. And by 1960, most of the Jews that were working professions, they would leave the country, selling in Israel, UK, US, and Switzerland, respectively. Those who owned businesses were the next to leave, although by that stage, getting an exit visa was very, very difficult. Come on, June 1967, when I think the Six-Day War actually occurred between several Arab countries and Israel broke out, only those members of the community who were most determined to stay in Sudan were still there. By the end of that year, only a handful of Jews remained, and most of them lived in Wad Madini. It was far away from political heart of the capital. Come on, 1973, someone named Elias Beno, whose Sudanese passport, I think, is actually documented here on this website, was one of the last Jews to leave in Sudan. His, let's say, ailing health meant he could no longer live by himself, and so he finally made the decision to move to London, where he lived, I think, with his daughter Sarah for 1 year before he had passed away. So it's very, very interesting. So you can see the actual community history over there and how much Israel had a tie, let's just say. And there were two real standout rabbis there, Rav Masoud Elbaz and also Rav Salman Malka, also who spoke about just beforehand. So it's very, very interesting. And I think various different people there's an oral historian that investigates a lot within regards to the Sudanese community. So named Daisy Ubadi, who I think herself is of Sudani Jewish heritage, would also investigate a lot within regards to it. And there's other key people from the Gabra family, for example, was another well-known family over there. And they talked about how the departure of the Cayman, it was a good community in its point of time when, especially the time period when Rabbi Solomon Malka was there in Khartoum. And it was actually, I think it was him and his wife and two oldest daughters were actually given the request by the Jewish authorities in Egypt to actually come into the community at that point in time. And I believe they had 10 children and at the end, which is very, very interesting. So so it was a very diverse, very rich history in of itself. There are various different articles, let's say this is connected to this also respectively. And I recommend everyone to learn more within regards to the famous Sudani Jewish community. Also, there's an interesting one. Look at the BBC website. Also there's also there is other places also. It will be interesting to know more about Rabbi Masoud Elbaz also. So if anyone's got more information, I would really, really appreciate that also if anyone's got more information on him and to just investigate on that also. So friends, we are a community over here. We're learning about the great communities of yesteryear. We are at the moment on a project where we're exploring different countries. We happen to speak about Sudan today. Very, very few people we'll speak about Sudan here on this series. So it's always a privilege to speak about, get the diversity of what's going on in Jewish communities. We spoke about a few of the rabbis. We spoke about the synagogue. Now, I don't think there's any real, Jewish presence at the moment currently in Sudan. That's something that we have to point out also at the moment. But we lived it today. We did a part one last night on the community. I recommend everyone to watch that video we recorded last night. Also, we gave over a lot of important details, let's just say, in of itself, also inside that video. And we explored what actually went on in the earlier parts, especially in the 1800s, inside that video. And, maybe, hopefully we'll be able to speak more about, maybe we'll record another video at the time period, the Hilula of Rabbi Solomon Malka. He was, I think if anyone, you mentioned Rabbi Solomon Malka, everyone will automatically think in their head within regards to Sudan. So he really imprinted Sudan in a very, very great way. And hopefully we'll be able to explore more within regards to his family when the time period of his Hilula comes up. Also, I think the Hayomi website also, it does speak in a great detail also within regards to the Jewish history of this community. That's something else I will definitely point out over here at the moment. He passed away on the 5th of Nisan, Rav Shlomo Malka did, in the year 1949, which is very, very interesting. Actually, there's a lot of details on the Haimi website, which marks his Hilula in of itself, and just relates over basically. I think this Arabic newspaper, Al Shams, was actually published between the years 1934 to 1948 for 14 years, if I'm not mistaken. He had his daughter was living, I believe, in Egypt, Fortuna, if I'm not mistaken. So when he actually returned to Egypt, he will deliver sermons to the public and meet with the leaders of the congregation, if I'm not mistaken. Now, what's interesting is, I think it was in the year 1942, during the Second World War, Rabbi Shlomo Malka would travel to Jerusalem or meet with the chief rabbis, Rishon LeZion, Rabbi Ben Zion Meir Chai Uziel, who will meet, and also the Ashkenazic chief rabbi, Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Halevi Herzog. Very interesting enough, that's very well documented over here. Also, that's something that we have to point out. I think he passed away also on a Thursday. Also, it happened to have been. So, but what's important is the interfaith and ties he would keep together with various different communities all over Sudan. It was very important all over the other places. For example, there was issues, I think, also in Sudan all over the years of forcing people to convert to Islam during those years. I think the Mahdi's jihad at that point in time was over there. So he would tackle all of these and would try and combat it in of itself at that point in time. And obviously he was close with the chief rabbi of Egypt, Rabbi Eliyahu Bachor Hazan. He was also close with another rabbi, Rabbi Abraham Abixur, if I'm not mistaken. So he was also key rabbi over there. Anyone tuning in live, please subscribe to the channel. We're exploring the Jewish history of Sudan over here in this special edition of it. So everyone, welcome to our community over here if you're new over here. So very, very much. They were living, the Jewish community was in Omdurman, which is the second of the largest cities, I believe, in Sudan, if I'm not mistaken. And so that's very, very interesting. So really, the Jewish population now, as we stated in the previous video, would really start in the year 1881. I think when he arrived in Sudan, if I'm not mistaken, originally I think he had his wife Rabbanit Chana and two daughters, Esther and Fortuna. But I think after later on they would have 4 more daughters and 4 more sons that were actually born in Sudan, also respectively, which is very, very interesting. And he wrote Torah colossal books. I think someone named Naham Ilan will actually translate his books from Arabic, I believe, at later stage in time. I think especially in 1940s, respectively, and gives over various teachings from his books. So hopefully, at that time period, we can record a video, hopefully, on the time period of his Hilula. We'll speak more about that over here. So, friends over here, welcome everyone to our channel. We did speak about the Jewish community, the history of the Jewish community of Sudan over here. It reached a peak of 250 families, 800 to 1,000 individuals in the 1940s. And there's various different articles that are actually spoken about. I think even the American Jewish Congress will actually speak about the tight-knit community also. And it's actually interesting. I think there was normalization in the horizon with regards to Sudan, also with regards to Abraham Accords, if I'm not mistaken. That's interesting in of itself also. And so, that's Interesting. The Abraham Accords is obviously very, very well documented, and so on and so forth. So I'd recommend everyone to learn more within regards to that. I think the countries currently, if I'm not mistaken, that are parts of the Abraham Accords. Obviously, most recently it includes Kazakhstan, and in January 2021, it was Sudan and Israel will have the Sudan will join in with Abraham's Accords. So that's another good news with regards to Sudan. I think it was on October the 23rd in 2020. Israel and Sudan agreed to normalize ties in an agreement mediated by Trump's administrative officials. As part of the agreement, the US removed Sudan from its list of state sponsors of terrorism, gave a $1.2 billion loan to help Sudanese governments clear the country's debts of the World Bank. Sudan agreed to pay, I think, $335 million in compensation to American victims of terror. And I think January the 6th, 2021, the government of Sudan signed Abraham Accords declaration in Khartoum. And I think it was on February the 2nd, 2023, Israel and Sudan announced at that point in time they had finalized an agreement to normalize relations with the signing that took place after the establishment of civilian government in Sudan. So normalization, obviously, I think it was widely opposed in Sudan, and fighting between rival military factions had delayed the signing at that point in time, but I believe they did sign at that stage in time. Was also very, very interesting to learn about. So everyone over here, we explored about the Jewish community of Sudan over here on this special edition. Everyone that you're new to the community over here, welcome to our community over here as we are exploring all the countries of Israel. We are about, friends, to enter Shabbat, Parashat. At the moment, Toldot, we're in the middle of the book of Bereshit over here. It's a buzzing Shabbat over here in Israel, and so on and so forth. And please watch over all the other countries we've recorded about. Friends, we've already recorded about 30 countries already. And it was a special edition where we spoke about Sudan also today. So everyone live, wishing you well, wishing blessings from Israel. And a Shabbat Shalom Bracha. Please join the channel and subscribe. Thank you for watching, everyone, and be well. Thanks very much. Thank you.